currently more than 30 bills across the U.S. targeting DEI programs at schools and organizations. From your point of view, how can we combat this agenda and support leaders like you?
I gotta think for a minute.
My biggest fear just came true. Okay, here we go. So I really, really appreciate calling that out because it is a very, very real thing that we're facing in institutional spaces. And so, this really just makes me think about how, we're very much stronger together. And it really makes me think about how DEI doesn't have to be relegated or siloed to a specific department, right? So sure, they can snatch funding, but they cannot snatch our voices, right? They cannot snatch our ability to advocate in our respective spaces and places for equity. And so I would say that the biggest way we can all contribute is to be advocates in our own right. And if you see the impact coming to spaces that you are in, right, harness that inner DEI champion, that inner equity champion, and use your voice to speak up and speak out. And I would say that is what we can all do in the places that we're in.
Absolutely.
This is a difficult question to answer because we can't control the government and the laws that are governing this nation, right? But like she mentioned, the way that we can combat that and overcome it is by coming together and uniting. And what I've learned in the space that I'm in now, in the position in the company that I'm in now, is don't be quiet, like she said, even when you don't feel like it. So DEI is a space that is so exhausting. There are countless times where I'm like, I want to quit. I want to be done with this. Because at times it feels like you're not making any traction and then you're not making the impact. And I learned that you cannot boil the entire ocean. And so you have to take it in segments and pieces, and you have to attack it in segments and pieces. And so although we see what can be something that is discouraging by the government and what they're ruling, even the affirmative action ruling that came through for corporate America, it doesn't impact us as much, but that's the writing on the wall of what's to come. And so because we know what is to come, we have to prepare ourselves. And preparation is by continuing to do the work now, by continuing to advocate, by hitting the streets, and then finding creative ways to get the message and the word across when it comes to DEI. And we don't always have to solely rely on the industry of DEI to do it. We, as she mentioned, we are individuals that each and every one of us can champion DEI in our own way. And it's such a large space. It's so vast and so big. And take a portion of that. Find what you're passionate about in the DEI space and then begin to advocate for it. There's so many different areas. Neurodivergency, racial, all those kind of things are under the DEI umbrella and then some. So find something, advocate for it, champion for it, and then don't allow them to silence you, like she said.
Absolutely.
Powerful, powerful. So my next question is for Leslie. Hi. So recently we saw the community come together to advocate for Frizz Fest to be recognized alongside major festivals. So outside of community support, what keeps you motivated when your work may be overlooked in some spaces?
My voice kind of soft, but that's so funny because we were just talking about that. I didn't realize that post would be such a big deal, but I definitely have come into this year, and advocate has been a word that has already been dropped so many times since we even just started the panel, and I'm not standing up for myself anymore, or for us, or for what I do. I've so long just coming into this St. Louis or this industry and being one of the first, if not the first, Black festival, not having anyone to look to or get advice from, or I had to constantly build and work at it, and just knowing how much passion and work and time and energy and how much we have learned and grown. I know that this is a space that I belong in, and it's also a space where other people need to recognize it too and give us what we deserve. Okay, so but what keeps me going, us going, because it's not just me, it's a family, it's a family affair, and we do it for St. Louis and we do it for the people that we love in St. Louis. But it's a hard project. So if I stop doing it, then I'm not being me anymore. And I know I speak about this a lot, and I keep saying how many times can I bring it up? But it is a part of my story that Frizz Fest was really birthed from a very painful place of losing my mother and the most important women in my life, my 2 aunts and my grandmother. So, and moving back home to St. Louis after living in LA a while, really leaning on my brother and my sister, and yeah, it was just something that obviously that I was going through, but something that I needed, but then also a space realizing that I am not the only one, and let me turn this pain into my passion and my purpose. So let me do what I need to do to bring other women along with me who might be experiencing the same things too. And yeah, just being a Black woman, we experience so many things in the workplace, in school, not being able to be who we are, be ourselves, like how we look, how we wear our hair. So it's important to know, you might not be able to get it in those spaces, but it is important to know and be able to go to a place where you're fully accepted and feel free to be who you are, and you're beautiful no matter what shade, texture, the way you dress, how you talk, the walk of life you come from. So I think it's just, there's no way that I don't care what I don't get, what people don't see, I'm always gonna do it because it's my heart.
Yes. I know that's right. Okay, Sarah. So you create campaigns for a lot of organizations and advocate for women's rights through storytelling and marketing. What advice would you give someone that wants to create a campaign but lacks community?
That's a good one. Listen to this.
Okay, these are some good questions. My goodness.
Just kidding. Yeah, first of all, I feel like I just kind of floated on stage right now. Like looking down at just the beauty that's here, and y'all are amazing. So just excited to be here with y'all. So yeah, I think community, building community is so important now. I think that, with what we do, we tend to think outside of the box a lot of times. We try to sort of cut through the noise of what everyone else is telling us all the time. I think, especially in the day and age of social media, we find ourselves in these bubbles, and it's just like an echo chamber, and we're all telling each other sort of the same thing. And so how do we get outside of that? And so, as an example, when we painted the mural in the Grove, that was really a way to let others, survivors of sexual assault, know that we see you and we stand with you. That mural said, "Consent is my love language." That came out after a bunch of, business owners in the Grove came out and, they had been assaulting women. And so from that kind of sparked a movement, and we sort of built this community online of people who were survivors, but also people who were looking to find spaces where they could be seen, felt, heard, loved, and valued. And a lot of times, especially during 2020, when actually that happened, we were all just online, and so when we talk about building a community, we really talk about everyone having space at the table to talk, to have perspective, to have conversations. And so, from there, it's really just about being real and just being yourself. And also, if you're at the table and you don't see anyone else that doesn't look like you outside that table, then you might need to go get a bigger table or grab some folding chairs or something. Get some people there to talk. But yeah, community really is everything nowadays. So we're all here, we're all a part of a community, and I think that it's just about knowing who your neighbor is too. Just going and saying hi. Sometimes we forget to smile, so sometimes people are like, "Are you from St. Louis?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am." But it's I'll just smile and say, "Where'd you get that top?" "Girl, I love your shoes." Like, what's going on, So I think just being a good person. So does that answer the question?
Okay, so this question is for all of the ladies. and we can go one by one if you like. How do you celebrate yourself? We do so much, and you ladies have so much that you're doing. And I think it is popular that women don't take the time out to reflect. We have self-care days, but how many do we really have? So how do you celebrate yourself when like nobody's around or nobody's watching?
I twerk in the mirror. No. I mean, I applaud myself. I yell, jump, scream. There was something recently that happened big for me, and I was in my office, and I was like, ah! You know, I think that's, for me, that's celebrating myself because of the type of person I am. I tend to hold things inside, and so to let it out in like a scream or a yell is a way that I can hear myself say, girl, you did it. The little Kristen celebrating inside too. And so just, you know, a good twerk, one leg up, you know. I'm celebrating myself now. So it's simple, but it's a lot for me. Yeah.
That's a good question because this came up last year, but every time like something good, like okay, I want more. How can I do more? How can I? But I think you know, similar to that, I get my nails done. I do a little purge on the internet, buy me some cute stuff. But another thing too, I call my friends and then talk my SHIT a little bit. Like just like talk just we do this so every now and then but because in general I'm a just very humble people in general, but it is everybody got a right to know who they are and talk that stuff.
I would say I really appreciate this question because I think it's a place that I've struggled with personally. First of all, one way or a few ways that I've started to celebrate myself. The first being just embrace the wholeness of myself, whether I'm showing up productive, whether I'm showing up not feeling like it, right? Just really embracing and loving all parts of me. To the point that you made, Sarah, about kind of disrupting the status quo, right? So I'll stop work in the middle of the day and go work out, right? Because I need a mental break, because grinding for hours on end is not healthy for me. Showing up as authentically as possible, no matter what space I'm in. Those are just ways that I find to reclaim myself in spaces that would rather have me flex and adjust and assimilate. My reclamation, my reparations in real time is to show up as authentically and unapologetically as possible. And that means embracing rest. That means embracing boundaries. And like I said, that means just loving all parts of myself in my many stages and phases.
Just echoing all that, I think, for me, I move so fast all the time. My family can attest to that, but I don't look back. So I tend to not just sort of be in the moment, if that makes sense. Like even I remember my wedding day, it went by so fast and I was like, shit, did we just get married? It just goes so fast, but I think for me, because I don't slow down, it's really important for me to be around really dope women and people who will be my reflection for me, because I tend to just go so fast. So even today, I was texting my friend Alexia and also Alexis. Don't get them confused. But I was like, I feel like I have imposter syndrome. Like I'm going here and I'm like, what is going on, And they were like, well, da 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 da. And I was like, wow, I had no, thank you. Sometimes just being around people and having them be your reflection is such a good, also I'm around the right people. You know what I mean? I've been an entrepreneur now for a while. I have a team, and I've had to shed people who just really weren't that true reflection for me, And so, I think just being around good people. Yeah.
So DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's more of a corporate lingo. Kind of came from that. So when you think of that in spaces where you are the entrepreneur, you are the boss, you kind of set the rules. being that it's important, how do you flesh out what the rules are, or who the people are, or who do you hire to make sure those important like laws and mandates are in place?
Well, I'm a team of one, so that really doesn't apply, but I can make it apply as far as the product that I put out. Like you said, it is a corporate language, but it's not at the same time. So I'm a children's book author, and I write books for kids who look like me. And I went this way, actually I was sitting on this for a long time, 2009, I was like, oh, I want to do this, playing around with it. And kind of like what you said, kind of had a bit of imposter syndrome, thinking like, who want to hear from me and all that. Then I always refer to the little Kristen inside of me. So y'all know about the Jet magazine, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so as a little girl, I would go, my grandma used to order Jet, and so I would pull out her Jet magazines when she was in Mississippi and line them up and go to the Beauty of the Week. And so that was a reference of me. I was like, let me see what the Beauty of the Week looked like this time. And I just keep looking, you know? And then as I got older, I thought about that. And I said, why am I referring to the beauty of the week as a standard of beauty? And so that made me want to create children's books with characters that look like me. And so my first story is called Queen Olivia and the Lava Monster. It's a little chocolate girl with braids and beads in her hair. And I created a character that looked like one of the little chocolate girls running around so they can see a reflection of themselves in a book. Because if they're never exposed to it, they don't know they can be it. And so I created the characters so that children can see, not just girls, but boys as well, and even people who are not of color, to also see that there is main character energy in a little chocolate girl. And I wanted to create adventurous stories. It didn't have to have like a sorrowful story, and fun characters that have fantasy and adventure, and she was the hero in her story. And so that is essentially what I wanted to do. I wanted to contribute to the diversity space, because in the children's book world, there are roughly, it's about 85% occupied by white authors. 12% of those are stories of children of color, but then 7% are actually written by people of color. So that means that 12% is a perspective that is not unique to us, right? And so I wanted to be one of those that contributed to that space and say, hey, I am a black woman of color making a story about a little black girl of color, and that is what my impact is in the DEI space.
That's so funny, because I also have a corporate 9-to-5 job, and we recently had a review where we review ourselves, and one of the goals is DEI, and I was like, I am that. Like, and that's what I wanted to say, but I think too, just also a grant process that I'm doing now, for us, for Frizz Fest to think even beyond that, and that can mean accessibility. And so making sure, things that we have are wheelchair accessible. Last year we made, we had in our youth zone sensory activities for kids. So I think kind of even just thinking beyond that, because we know as black people, as black women, we always get left out of everything. So there's also other groups of people that do too. So just thinking about how we can do our part in making things welcome for everybody, but also a big part of Frizz Fest is to be able to put money in the hands of black people and pay them for what they're worth and what they do. That is our way to be able to do that. So all the contractors, from photographers, from our website and our graphics, to the artists that might not necessarily get asked to perform on such a platform, like just being able to extend that and provide an opportunity to do something that they love and bring joy to the people that are there. So I think we do just like through different ways. I had a friend of mine from high school, and he brought his daughter to Frizz Fest, and she asked like the next week, are we going to the park about the black hair? Like, thought it was like an every week thing. So it's then also important that not only is it important for black women, but also black men. So we tried to create, as black men come out, because y'all need to be supporting us too, but we need to support y'all too, and then family, just for kids to see just a positive reflection of the black community. is our way of doing our part. Just from, I mean, it's a Black festival. All around is DEI, but I think we just do our parts to be able to provide and give back to our vendors, giving, building partnerships where we can get them square readers so they can build their business and the trainings that they need. So not just at our event, but ongoing, they can create that generational wealth, and it's a source of inspiration to keep on building on their business. So I think every aspect that we do, we just are trying to do our part in giving back to the community in a way that they are able to succeed.
I think Kristen and Leslie captured my thoughts beautifully. What I'm most reminded of is a mentor of mine in the DEI space. And I remember us having a conversation because I was really struggling with being this voice of what seemed like dissent within the organization that I worked, right? I felt like I was entering spaces, consistently challenging the status quo. I'd even kind of built a name for myself where people were like, look, if you invite Jaquie to the conversation, don't just accept a yes person, right? Be ready to start answering some pretty critical questions. And I was just expressing to her, I was like, I'm tired, right? Like, this is a lot. And I also feel like it's not moving the needle fast enough, especially in the healthcare space where people's lives are hanging in the balance daily, every second, every moment. Some of these conversations aren't moving quickly enough. And I found myself feeling like I wasn't making an impact. But I think that that's what the beauty is of what Leslie is doing, what Sarah's doing, what Kristen has done in bringing diversity into spaces where that need exists and exists outside of institutional spaces, right? Because we need people advocating on the inside to dismantle these broken systems constantly and challenge people to be held accountable for being equitable in their practices and creating spaces where people belong. Right? However, while that fight is happening, we still have communities that are being neglected and deprived of the community and the spaces that they need. So how do we get creative and create those spaces for ourselves? Right? How do we write the books? How do we bring the festivals to the community? Right? And how do we find ways to move forward together without having to rely so heavily on these institutional spaces to give us permission? And so I say all that to say, right, I say that yes, all of the people on this stage touch DEI work in some way we can label or formalize. However, I say that if you're willing to enter a space and ask the questions, whose voice is being represented and prioritized? Who are we pushing to the fringes? Who do we need to pull in so that we can be more equitable in our practices and our approach? Then I'd say you can be a champion, right? From the kitchen table to the boardroom, you can be an advocate for voices that are not present and represented in the space. Right, and I'd say that, echoing Leslie's point, right, we've been there, so we know what it feels like to be pushed to the fringes, which is why I think it's so beautiful that we're also choosing to be champions in this space as well, because we know that what we've experienced is what other communities are experiencing, and we're positioned to be really great advocates, and we all can be and do that.
Yes. Yes. I think, for me, being a creative and an artist, like, I definitely want to see a lot of diversity and perspective and how we bridge creativity to tell our stories. And so I come from nonprofit marketing. It's like over 15 years of really just like being the one-person show at a nonprofit that doesn't have a budget. So I'm building the website, I'm doing the branding, I'm taking the video, taking the photos, and I have no one on my team. And I've been hustling so hard for so long in this sort of mission-focused work. And then sometimes I look at the table and it is a bunch of like white women who have been in these spaces for a long time. And I am someone who, after I had my first baby, it was like I became a superhero. I was like, oh shit, like I have a voice. Sorry, I cussed, I'm so sorry. I have a voice, like I feel empowered. And so I just started asking questions. And I was like, well, why has so-and-so been working here for 10 years? and they're still a coordinator. Like, why isn't she a manager? Like, what are we doing? Or, you know, when we think about titles in the workplace too, that title means nothing if I'm still doing the work of a director, but I'm being paid like a manager, if that makes sense. So, yes, okay, yes. So, you know, when I started Girl Louie the third time on freelance, I immediately had to hire my first person because I knew I was going to go back to work in the workplace, because it just, there was no, you know, for me it was a lot to do this again. But you know, my first hire, like, I was the only one that really looked like me on my team, and it wasn't necessarily intentional. It was just that I wanted to build a team of dope creatives who were doing awesome stuff. They were all like in their early 20s, and they were teaching me how to do TikTok, and I was like, thank you so much, you know. But I think, I think especially with creativity, like creatives in St. Louis are amazing, and they're abundant. Especially Black creatives. And so finding a space where, you know, I got my first $30,000 contract, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need help. Yeah, and so then I just started hiring a bunch of people and like friends, and was like, can you help me with this? And then I just kept going. And so when I think of Girl Louie, I like to mentor my team. I like to have a diverse team of mostly women, but, you know, from all backgrounds here in St. Louis, been around. And for me, it's around like building out this round table of folks that are just so unique in their ways and their approach, because not every client's gonna want me to design something, but they might want Alexia or whoever to design something. And so for me, just building the space I wanted to see and wasn't seeing it, so I just did it, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Well, it's time for a toast to you ladies. Yes! You guys have been putting in the hard work. It is an amazing month to celebrate you. So I want to call up the CEO and founder of Rare Radar. The lady that put all of this together. She's such an amazing, awesome woman. And we'll start the toast.
Hello everyone. First of all, I just want to thank you guys for coming. This started off as just a call, like during quarantine with my friends in a group chat, and we was like, we want to do something for Women's History Month. And Erica and my friend Jessica, who's in LA, we just kind of set out some goals, and we wanted to do an event last year, but we wanted to do last year, but you know, it just happened when it was supposed to. So first, before we start the toast, I want to give a great thanks to my amazing team and our sponsors, Rack STL, Miss Bar and Grill, ORS Olive Oil, Exoria Botanical Beauty, Ungun, Pop Pop Parade, Her Whisper, Golden Gems, Bling by Bina Nails, Legion Customs, Tandra's Touch, Late Bloom, Brand with Mina, Jamel's Investment Group, and Sophia's Crown Flower Shop. So all of you ladies are amazing. I admire the work that you guys do, and I want to give a toast to you guys. So everybody raise your glass. Everybody raise your glass and just give a cheers to these ladies and the hard work that they're doing in the community. Cheers.